All right. Thank you to future Todd and Eric. Those guys always think they're better than us, Todd.
Every single time. Yeah.
They're kind of jerks. I don't
Yeah.
really like them that much, to be honest with you.
Thank God we never have to meet.
I know, really. We'll never meet unless there's a disruption in the space time continuum. The Q2C verse. Bring it on.
That's right.
But let us get into this. Let us introduce our guest. And I know many of you already know who they are, but let me introduce them anyway. From the hugely popular YouTube channel VBunnyGo, with over 340,000 subscribers, VBunny, Hambone, and Marshall. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate this. This is like big for us. We have like, you guys are amazing. You guys are like probably some of the best, creators that we've ever seen. And just for you to be here, we really, really appreciate it.
We appreciate that a lot. You guys are amazing.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Like seriously, thank you for having us on your show and considering us. It means a lot to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's nice because we actually have had a chance to meet in a couple of different spaces, and then Todd and Hambone, right, had a chance to meet in Sweden.
And V-Bunny. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and V-Money too. That's right.
Yeah.
That was awesome. You guys went to Sweden and with Resolution Games and got a chance to check out some cool new stuff, right?
You're repping your resolution toque there. I see that. That's awesome.
Oh, look at that! Yeah, I just noticed that. That's awesome.
There we go. Yep. Excellent.
Yeah, and then Hambone and Marshall and Todd and I got to hang out a little bit when we were just at CES in Vegas, and that was an awesome time too. That was amazing. It was my first chance to meet Marshall, so it was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're glad Marshall's actually able to go.
Yeah. Usually, we're the ones going, and Marshall is here with our kids. That's just sometimes how we work. So this time I stayed, and Marshall got to go.
Now
And I'm sure you enjoyed it, like a kid in a candy store with all the tech and all the crazy stuff that happens at CES.
I enjoyed it. We definitely walked a lot.
My feet are still recovering.
Trying to see what we could.
Totally.
Absolutely, yeah. It takes me like 3 days just to get done from like because there's so much, and I'm sure you guys were like us. You're running from like appointment to appointment, and then you're trying to get over here and trying to get over there. And this year was triple the size, way more people than last year.
Yeah. And
The,
there's portions of the convention spread out all over different hotels and stuff like that. So yeah, it can get pretty wild.
The after party literally felt like a mosh pit. Like we were going in, like squeezing up against people. Like, excuse me.
Oh, you're like, excuse me, Palmer Lucky. I need to get through here.
Get out of my way. I need a drink. Yeah.
But it was pretty amazing. But let's get into you guys a little bit. There's a lot of people that know you guys out there, but there may be some that don't know the whole kind of thing. So, after I met you guys last year, I kind of went and said, I don't know enough about you guys. And my daughter, who is a big fan of like some other, content creators out there, like on the flat side, like Matt and Rebecca, and like, just a couple of the other ones out there. I can't remember. No, it's funny. She's extremely big fans of these. So when I met you last year, I'm like, my daughter would absolutely love you. And I'm always trying to get her into VR stuff. So I was like, we need to go watch this together. So she watched it. She became a huge fan. She watches all the time. But I kind of, in doing that, went back and I found a video that you did where something had happened with your channel and you were just kind of doing a reset. And you just sat down behind the camera and you kind of went over your path. It was one of the best videos I have ever seen. People, go watch this video. It's only got like 7,000 views. It's crazy. Everybody should go watch this video. But literally, it's you just sitting down behind a camera, being completely honest with everybody and showing the path and how you got here. It's one of the most inspirational, best watches I have ever seen. But I think that encapsulates everything that you guys have gone through. So kind of like, tell us a little bit about that. Take that whole synopsis thing and tell us a little bit about you and Hambone and Marshall and the whole thing and how it happened.
The journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it all started like they worked together at Walmart.
Yeah,
And-
pushing carts.
Yep.
They're
Cart
cart
pusher
pushers.
mafia.
Nice.
Every time we moved, I didn't really know Marshall that well, but every time we moved, Marshall would be there helping us move. And so their relationship kind of started, their friendship. And then we would be at his mom's house, and around a table, and they're just talking like their future and their dreams and their visions, and I'm over here playing Call of Duty. You know, just like listening to playing Call of Duty. I'm like, that's a good idea. Like, that's cool. And then fast forward, we moved into our own house. We bought a house. And then
in Vegas.
Yeah, in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And then Marshall was bringing over his stuff because he was going to start streaming. And then one night he walks in, and I had just found Recroom for the first time. So I'm in VR, and I'm just getting lost in this world, you know, of VR. And he sees me playing, and I'm playing this haunted house, and I'm running away from everybody, and I'm like screaming my head off. And he ends up going to Hambone, and he's like, she should be the streamer. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, are you kidding?
Yeah, she said no flat out. And
Yeah.
and keep in mind, like, Marshall himself was thinking about streaming. He had saved up with his Walmart paychecks and Domino's paychecks. You know what I'm saying? Finally a full PC setup that he probably took him a year to save. And he saw VB streaming, and he's like, hey, she should really stream. And I have background with marketing and writing music, and I had my own studio for music. And so we convinced her to, like, hey, you should really do this. And of course she said no at first, but then she thought about it, and she decided she wanted to try it, and we convinced her to do it, and we converted our whole studio into a stream room. And Marshall brought all of his stuff over, and I'll let you take it from here, Marshall. Brought all of his stuff over and just gave it to us, specifically to her, and kind of put his dreams on hold for a second so that she can fulfill what he saw in her. Go ahead, Marshall.
Right. The moment that I knew, and it wasn't when she was she probably remember me and her remember a little bit differently. The moment I knew she would do well on stream was I remember her in Rec Room in a tent, and there was all these kids around her, and she was just talking to one of them specifically at the time, but everyone was gravitated to her, and it was a very calm environment, and she was doing nothing in particular except just being present, and everyone was interested. And I turned to her husband, I turned to Hambone, and I said, you know, as much as I would like to do this casual streaming or content creation casually to see where it might go, if she wanted to, she could go all the way. Like, she's a girl, she's providing something that's rare in the streaming community, to actually be like, hey, I'm going to be something that is approachable to everybody, and not, you know what I'm saying, and not use other assets to just try and get clout. But I told her that she could do it. She said she didn't believe me. And then I told her, well, if I move my entire computer setup here and the VR headset and everything that I've just recently purchased, if I move it into your house, I will do that if you will promise to stream once a week and just try it. And she tried it, and the rest is kind of history. And it, and also I helped come up with the name. She thought it was a little campy, but like it came through anyway. But
how could you not? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what to put, and then he came up with the Go. Yeah.
It's gold. It's perfect. I mean, it's exactly perfect. So for you, VBunny, how hard was it to come out from behind the camera? So like when you go on for the first time, and maybe it's not even just your face, but it's your voice, you're in front of people, especially live. It's never an easy thing. Like, did you have moments where you were just like frightened or nervous, or when you got that first viewer and you're like, somebody's watching me? Like, how was it for you? Did you have moments where you're like,
terrifying,
or I'm gonna quit? Yeah.
I don't think I ever thought to stop from my nervousness, but I was definitely nervous. Like, but I think the way I get over it is if I say it. Like, I'm really open with my emotions. So if I'm nervous, I'll be like, I'm so nervous right now. You know what I mean? Like, just because I feel like if I say it, then that's me conquering it in a way. And so the first couple of streams, I don't completely 100% remember them, but I'm pretty sure I probably said like I'm nervous. I'd always say I'm sweating. Whenever I got nervous, I'm like I'm sweating, guys.
The first stream you did was on PS4.
Yeah.
Actually, on the PS4 live stream button.
Yeah.
Go on, sorry. I just
No,
wanted to mention
yeah.
that.
Was it
Wow.
VR or were you on camera? Or were you in VR?
It was VR. I think
Okay.
was it Firewall?
Yeah, I think it
I
might
I
have
have
been
a feeling it was
Firewall.
Firewall.
Probably.
Do you
Yeah.
think VR made it easier for you because you don't have the camera directly on you? It's people seeing
Yeah.
what you see. So did maybe VR allow you to like express yourself a little bit more?
Yeah. No, because that's the thing I love about VR. As soon as you put it on, you're in another world. And so for me, it's like I'm protected almost in the headset. And
you
so
never played games?
yeah, like I loved Call of Duty, but I didn't grow up playing Mario. I didn't grow up playing Final Fantasy or anything. So being in these games, it was 100% my reactions. Like it's me seeing things for the first time or seeing like, oh my God, this exists or wow. And they're like, oh, they're just, you could find that in this game. You can find that in that game. Like I never played those games. Like this is amazing.
Everything is
And-
way more instinctive in VR. So
Yeah.
it's less about, because traditionally at that time, most people that were playing games are doing it for gameplay itself, right? Whereas we were taking it and saying, let's make this an experience. And VB sharing that experience became basically the foundation of everything that we do.
Yeah, and it's extremely cool to watch and see because there's always a progression, right? Like you start with a certain spot and then you kind of like start to build and you get better and you find your groove. So what was it like for you guys in the beginning? Like did you immediately say, "Okay, this is where we want to go. This is what we want to focus on." Like where was it when you were like, "Okay, let's bring characters in or let's start doing this," or like how was that transition?
The thing is that we've had a couple of different periods where we've had major transitions, but the overarching vision for the brand was actually laid out like at the very beginning. So when me and Marshall were sitting down and um, we had a table at my mom's house that we would sit down and kind of like we played board games and things like that, but in these conversations we would constantly be talking about vision and where we want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. Uh, and so as VB began to grow into this personality as a content creator, I used my skills and kind of our passions, putting things together to kind of create this 5 to 10 year plan, which we're still currently in the middle of. A lot of what we're doing right now
Wow.
was actually laid out at that table. And so we had a clear direction from the very beginning. There were some things that changed in the middle of it. Like, for example, we had moved to TikTok and we started moving away from live streaming mostly. And then TikTok kind of grew into YouTube. And then we started doing long form content. And then we moved from Twitch all the way over to YouTube. And so there's been a lot of different changes like that as we pivot, as we realize who our audience is, which is in a lot of cases younger girls especially. And so
That's going to be scary too, right? Like you guys jumped from live streaming from Twitch to YouTube all the way, right? Like do you do anything with Twitch anymore at all?
No
No.
more with Twitch.
Wow.
We completely jumped ship. And the thing is like we understood that risk going, because I mean even at that time we were getting some income. We understood the risk going from here to here, and we decided to do it anyways because long term we saw the benefits. And so there's a lot of times where we're in these phases where there is going to be a certain level of risk. Even right now we're in it. Like right now we have taken all of our sponsorships and we're pausing everything to focus just on video. And so
Wow.
it's going to obviously bring our income down, but what we see is in the next 6 months is being able to multiply that by 10 if we do it right. And so
Right.
there's risk and then there's vision and but when it comes to the characters and everything, that's
That
something.
started with stream.
Huh?
That started with stream.
Yeah, that started with the stream. And so this vision for this VBunnyGo as this very big personality, but also not just a streamer, but kind of creating this own world where these characters come in. And we may bring in different characters here and there, but all of this started with me and Marshall looking at the Ugandan Knuckles meme and being like, oh my gosh, we have to go into VR chat and try this. And that's what really got us into VR. And from that kind of like mindset, we wanted to integrate these characters and this world and kind of put people into this environment where VBunnyGo is its own little universe. And that's how we really did everything in Twitch days. Like in the Twitch days, we would put on our streams like it was an entire production. And we would bring in these characters and develop these characters, and we're still doing things like that today. So it was kind of always the foundation of what we do, and eventually down the road we want to see VBunnyGo be more than just streaming and content creating on YouTube. We want to see VBunnyGo be more like a cartoon that we can put onto major platforms and things like that. So that's going to be the long-term goal. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, or if I answered that.
I think just like when we first started with the characters, that was something I was nervous about, because I'm like, okay, because I'm over here, like when we first started, I'm over here playing Firewall, and I'm over here playing, you know, just kind of like more mature games. And this was before I found out my audience was younger. And so I was more like, how are these people going to perceive it? Are they going to see me like this weird person talking to this puppet? You know what I mean? Like it just like was like, okay, how are they going to take it? And I was kind of nervous about it. Yeah, and I even have Leonard.
Yeah, Leonard's the best.
Leonard, that's awesome.
I love Leonard and Beaky. Yeah. You have to like integrate it right? Because if you bring him in and it doesn't make sense, then I can see where you'd be nervous. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was even playing Boneworks, and I found Leonard, and Hambone was like, okay, you're gonna go in and you're just gonna play with Leonard. And I'm like, people are gonna think I'm out of my mind. Like I am an adult person.
That's the point.
Yeah. And so I'm playing with Leonard, and literally, my friend, who's a really close friend, he had mentioned as I'm streaming and I'm doing this, he's like, you look like one of those crazy people in one of those like hospitals talking to like all the puppets. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's me.
You know, yeah,
that's kind of what I feel like.
This is my personality. Like, you know what I mean? Like I played with Barbies until like a pretty like older age. And I was explaining that to my daughter the other day, actually, because she's still into Barbies. And I'm like, I still played with Barbies all the way until high school, really. And I think that's a lot where like this comes in, because I'm just able to like see them as my Barbies and see them as my thing. You know, King comes in and I'm able to just talk to him like he's literally his own person. And we're just able to have conversation, and he is King, you know. And like that's who he is. But of course at first I was nervous, because I was like, I don't know how people are going to take this.
Yeah, a lot of these kids now though, they live through these characters.
Oh my god.
Like when like, Leonard is the greatest example, and he's been like where we
brought him to Sweden.
Yeah, we brought him to Sweden.
Right, you have to.
He's been the greatest example of how we really develop these characters, and Marshall could talk more about that in a second with all the different characters he plays. But
I was gonna say, how do you figure out all the voices too? Like who does
Marshall?
Is it just Marshall? Is it all just Marshall? Who does Beaky? Who's Beaky? I want to know who Beaky is.
Here's Mr. Beaky.
Yeah.
Beaky's my favorite, dude. Beaky's my favorite.
Little Beaky is actually our.
He's a community member.
He's one of our community members named Salty.
Yeah.
And so, but he's a great example too. Little Beaky and Leonard, these young kids live through these. Like when VB goes and hugs them, the way they see it, and it's hard to explain because I can't really give you the psychology behind it, but I know it's intuitive to us because we see it.
Yeah.
When she goes and hugs Leonard or hugs Little Beaky or interacts with them, to those kids, it's the same exact feeling as them interacting with her. And so it's really the main value we're giving to our audience isn't actually comedy, it's nurturing. And that's why so many young girls especially are able to create that emotional bond with her, and young boys too. But Marshall is amazing with all the different characters he plays as well, and he definitely helps appeal to the boys and the comedy of it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the what's it? I remember one of our better videos recently in Recroom was Mommy Longlegs Daycare, and I'm the gross kid, as VB calls him, and I'm the guy's kid, and I was like, what can I be that will get a reaction out of VB, other than kind of her? Because at first she's not dealing with mommy long legs, right? The daycare person becomes mommy long legs. So how can I make this interaction something that gives her more of an opportunity to react? And so what I did is I was that kid that would lick everything, that would put everything in his mouth and put cooties everywhere, and also claim that she had cooties and not him. Right,
Oh my
because
God.
she's a girl. And
Right.
so we had this one effect where the objects don't all have physics. They kind of stick where you leave them. So what I did is like stick it right there. And then to try to create this moment where I know the physics are weird, and instead of existing in that weird space and leaving it awkward, utilizing it to try and help create something that VB can react to rather than breaking her immersion. I remember like the first big character that I played was Professor M. And now this is old live stream days. You guys may not have seen any of this material.
I did.
But PM is.
I went back and looked. Trust me, I did.
Yeah, I've gone back to the channel as well.
And but PM is a really good one, and then his transformation into Dr. Maniac, and then reaffirming that they're actually separate people, and then just kind of it was wild. But
that was a 6-month process.
Yeah,
No way.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
we literally spent months planning it and integrating it into the stream so that when he made this transformation finally, it was like the people who actually were there paying attention, their minds were blown. And so Marshall has been like a pivotal part of what we do within all of these different personalities and stuff.
So Marshall, when you're doing these personality things in association with VB, are you in the same space? Like, are you at their house, or are you in your own house?
Doing our house right now.
I'm now. I can
studio.
Be. It didn't used to be the case. VR is immersive enough to where you don't really have to be in the same place. I mean, you're technically you're kind of in the same place.
For sure, but I would think that when you're trying to do like acting, almost, it would make it might be a little easier when you're.
We did the Dr. Maniac stream, and he was at
my
house.
Right, in-person live stream stuff.
Yeah,
when I was doing those performances, that was in person.
Some was pre-recorded,
so yes,
but then
some a lot of the virtual ones performances, like if you see me in VR, 9 times out of 10, I'm not necessarily
the recorded
at
ones
the time.
Right.
And it's it just, I can act pretty fine it's actually easier in a lot of ways, because when you're behind the makeup, in a sense, or the avatar, you can become that person. It's much easier, and it's much more believable when you're not like in the same room. Like the mocap suits, you have to do a lot of pretending, but in virtual reality, like in VR chat, there is no pretending. The only version of that person is literally the character in front of you. So there's no need to pretend. I am Uganda Knuckles. I am whoever I'm supposed to be. And all I have to do is alter my voice and my mannerisms just enough to create that caricature that VB needs to play off of.
Right. And you guys play off each other so well with that too. And like, it's amazing. Like, do you script it, or like, because like I was watching one recently just because I wanted to see some of the new stuff. And you did one a couple of months ago called My Pet Fish Became a Monster. With Blue. And you just keep feeding it. That was great. The way you guys were feeding off each other with that. I could tell it was probably somewhat scripted, but it just seemed like you fed off each other.
I'll tell you this. That's actually Little Beaky. That's her community member, Salty. And
but you were
they're very good and very close, and VB can talk more to that. I was Bloop. Actually.
Oh, you were the whale. You were the monster. Yeah,
the monster.
Yeah, so
wow.
The crazier character in all of it.
That's crazy. That was so good. That was so well done. If everybody should go watch that one, because it's so funny. And like I said, the interactions back and forth are hysterical.
Yeah, no, that one was, so when we do these videos, we come up with the idea, and then we won't really like write dialogue, but we'll write a loose script. Like, this is point A, got to get to point B, and we end with point C.
And then improv between.
And we improv between that.
Nice.
And so just working with Salty, the thing that I love about the community and about VR is you're able to just make these really deep connections because you're able to go off body language and things like that. And so I think that's what really helped me get to know Salty, and Salty, vice versa. And so now we're just able to, you throw us into anything and you say, okay, you're his mom and you're the baby, you know what I mean? Like we can just automatically go into it. But the thing
That's
is we
super
have
cool.
we have within our community, I call them our creatives, and they do our videos with us. And so what Marshall will do is during downtime when we're not really filming, he'll take them all into VR chat or Rec Room, and we'll improvise and we'll do improvisation classes and things like that just to sharpen our skills up.
Wow.
That way,
That's
when we go
amazing.
into the recordings, we know what to do. And we know, like, okay, if VB's this crazy person today, this is how we're going to treat her. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And directing all that. So
he directs it.
I've been directing lately. I eventually want to get into more acting within the next few months or so. But a lot of times I'll actually be at the computer screen and watching everything. And when we went to LA, we went to film for TikTok Made Me Play It. And it was an amazing experience because when we walked into the studio, it was a legitimate TV show movie studio room, and there was maybe 30 plus people there. Everything that you would imagine: the giant green screen cameras, two directors. There was a sound team, a makeup team, a set design team. But when I was there, I remember talking to VB because I was there as more so of, I guess the official term would be like the brand manager. And so I was there as the brand manager helping her do her thing. And I was talking to her and giving her some things that I was saying that she could do better. And I remember the director kind of like, not snapping at me. He wasn't rude, but he kind of corrected me and said like, hey, anything that you need to speak to her, and like, even though she's your wife, blah, 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 that was implied. Even though you need to say something to her, it needs to come through me first. And then the director needs to communicate that to what she needs because he has all the pieces together in his head.
He has the ultimate vision, right?
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is I took that and I realized, okay, everyone has their own places to be in this production. And so when we've been filming in VR, it's very, very similar now. I will be at the screen. If anybody has complaints or concerns, I will literally make sure that everyone directs it to me, either by telling me specifically or in a DM. I make sure that if I say subtle, everyone is quiet on set. We make sure that everyone learns how to wait and then act when it's their time to come. We also make sure that
we're not talking over each other.
Yeah, we're not talking over each other, or the audio. Everyone's audio is isolated. So whenever we record, I make sure everyone's audio is isolated by them recording their audio on their end. And so when we get these videos back, we usually have sometimes 8 to 10 audio tracks that we have to mix and work through. And then from there, I follow the storyline, and we have our pre-pro, which is basically a document that kind of shows where the story goes, and I make sure it follows that. And sometimes on a whim, I'll be like, this is a better direction for us to go in, and I could see that when VB can't. And so all of these things kind of come into play. We've even hired for some videos, we've hired production on, which is basically the same concept of set design. So if something needs to be changed on set, whether it's in Neos VR or Rec Room or something, there's a specific person that is allowed to touch everything, and no one else is allowed to touch it. And what ends up happening is things go much faster. We don't get to stepping on each other's toes. The actors can focus on acting. The extras can focus on doing what they do. And everything kind of works together through that director sense. And then everyone has the freedom to really express themselves and focus on their thing. And Salty has been like kind of, if there was another person in the room that should be here with us right now, it's Salty. He's a young kid, but he has been editing with us. He has been acting with us. He has been doing everything with us, and he's been in the community for like almost 2 years now. And
2 years.
Yeah, and he's been pretty amazing. And
he was excellent in that one. That's the only one I've seen, but it was excellent. It was so good. Like it was super well done. It was just super funny. I can remember actually like chuckling out loud a couple of times watching it. And I'm not your target audience at all. But I'm like sitting here going, "That's freaking funny, man."
We try to make it watchable for everyone. That's something that we really try to do.
Yeah.
Well, it was just like subtle things. Like I think was he sick really, or because he was sick.
He was actually sick.
But you used it so well. Like at one point he coughs, and all of a sudden you see like a spit on the camera, or like the cough phlegm on the camera. It was I'm like, holy shit, that's funny. It just worked. You know what I mean? But you can see the production value. Like when you watch your videos, you can tell that you're not just flipping the camera on and going, okay, action, go. You know, you can tell that it's well thought out. Like me and Todd, so you guys are like on a 5 or 10 minute plan or a year plan. We're on a 5-10 minute plan. We're like, we don't, you know what I mean? So you guys you can tell that you guys, the production value is what I should say is so high that you can tell these things are done so well, and you must put a ton of time into it. Do you have times when you're just sitting around talking, and are you always talking about the show, or like, you know, you brainstorming your new idea for your next video, or is it tough to get away from?
A little. I think more for me, it's tougher to get away from being a mom. I'm really trying to figure out, okay, how do I'm getting better at it, but I'm like, how do I do home life plus business life plus husband life? You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to make sure I'm everything everywhere. And so it's a little tough on me. And then there's times too where I'm like, how do I do me life? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so we'll usually try to go out for like a date, and then sometimes it will turn into, oh, I have this great idea.
A meeting.
You know what I mean?
Okay, we can write this one off now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so, but I think that just really shows too that we really love what we do, and we love coming up with these ideas. There are sometimes though, like where they'll come up with an idea, and I will say no more than I will say yes, to be honest, on an idea. You know, I'll be like, no, I don't like that. Like, no. And then they'll be like, just try it, VB. And then obviously it's like, it works and it's great. But yeah, like we've even so we went to Sweden and we saw how they operated, and they were just phenomenal.
Resolution games.
Yeah, how resolution games was just, they worked so seamlessly. And we realized, okay, we just moved to Texas, primarily because Marshall lives in Texas. And so we were like, we need to be closer to him. And then we went to Sweden and we saw how they were actually working in the same building, face to face. You know, like one person would be done coding and then the other person would be there to test it right away. And so
they're
it was
like
just
sitting
so
at the same
seamless.
desk. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were like, that's what we need to do. And so we took that, when we came back, we took that from them. So we said, okay, Marshall, you need to be here at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. And so now that's like, but that helps us too, because it's like as soon as 5 o'clock hits, we're done.
Right. And you can
that's nice.
All they have to do is get up and roll themselves out of bed. I've got to get up, drive. But it what it was breaking the habit of COVID, I would say. A lot of our brands started taking off during COVID, and a lot of our habits for workflow began to solidify around remote working a lot. And because even when in Vegas, it was good, we were doing that. We were living in the same place in Vegas, but we, with vaccines not ready for kids and other stuff like that, there was a lot of concerns of let's just be separated to be sure. And we created new habits, and not all of them good, but we. And it's not that remote working doesn't work. Salty, for example, doesn't even live in the same country, and VB has been able to create this kind of connection with him, and it's wild. So it's not all, but for us as a partnership, as the three of us, we've always been more productive together from the beginning when we were at the kitchen table to now. And the best thing about being in the same room is because we're a partnership, there has to be a consensus between us for the most part. Hambone does act as a sort of president, where he will usually make a lot of the quicker decisions on things or final decisions. But there's a lot of things like if I want to move forward with something and it's something bold, I have to be sure that VB or Hambone aren't going to hate it. Right. And we can't be in each other's minds all the time, but also working together just in the short few months that they've moved out here, we've also started syncing our thoughts and are able to actually predict each other much better. I feel, in a lot of ways.
I
In
think
the
this is
recent
great.
filming we did, I was already directing some of the extras to do what Hambone was already going to ask me to ask them to do, because I was like anticipating it and stuff and trying to move things.
That makes the
along.
workflow so much better, right? And a little easier on Hambone, and VB's got less to worry about, and just the whole team working cohesively makes a huge difference.
That's it. This Todd, we're decided. You're moving to me in New York. You're going to have to move here. That's all. We're not going to be able to work properly unless you're living here with me.
You can move to Canada.
I am not moving to Canada. No way.
Oh boy.
Recroom kind of is where you started the VR experience, right? Is that something that you see yourself continually using in the future? And Neos, perhaps?
Yeah.
Definitely. So Rec Room is currently coming out with Rec Room Studios, which means they're now able to use Unity. And so
I've seen some pretty cool things. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And so because of that, I'm just like, it really just opens it up even more. Like, because I feel like our ideas are pretty over like the top sometimes. And Rec Room, not that we were limited, but there's only so much ink you could use in the rooms. And so now that that is kind of out the window.
Ink being the processing power in a single room.
Yeah. Right. And so now that that's kind of, we can move past that, I'm just like, now we can really, go in. And I definitely, Rec Room, again, was the first VR game I ever played. And so my heart is just there. And so my heart will continue to always be there. But now that we're able to do Unity, we're both going to be doing Neos and Rec Room.
Wow,
Neos. So I could elaborate more on that.
Yeah.
So the vision for us right now, and actually, we are currently at this moment, like we're literally, I'm getting texts right now. At this moment, we're putting together a team for building in Unity.
Yeah.
And then taking that and exporting it into different games like Neos, even Rec Room, Bone Lab, and potentially VR Chat if we see an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is, because of Rec Room Studio and its compatibility with Unity, we are building these sets inside of Unity, inside of a specific version of Unity. And then depending on where we want that set to go, we'll send it to that game, and we choose the game depending on what we need. So like if it's more of a physics-based idea, we might do Bone Lab. If it's more of a social idea, we might do Rec Room. If it's more of a, we need very specific logics and production and high quality type of thing, we're going to go into Neos. And so we're trying to take this workflow and create something that is going to constantly be producing maps. And then in Rec Room, because of Rec Room's economy, everything is going to be filtered into there eventually. There's some, like we literally just spent like maybe $500 in low poly maps just to work in Rec Room. And that's already behind the scenes being built right now. We've already probably got 5 or 6 sets almost ready.
Wow.
Or we have plans to use in the near future. And so we're kind of moving from this, let's just kind of do anything, to more focused on, we're building these very specific sets and stories and templates for us to just create these worlds, and then also integrate our characters. Like we're about to put in this bank, for example, that may be the Beaky Beak Banks, which is like the penguins, right? And so everything, like maybe she's working in an office, and maybe that's part of that tower, that bank tower, or something like that, or it's where the penguins own that part, and maybe there are pictures up there, and we can create like a statue of them and put them in there in both Rec Room and Neos. Or we can film a video in Neos and then take that exact environment and actually import it into Rec Room, so that a lot of these younger kids have the opportunity to play these things and have this inside out experience of watching the video and then going to experience it all within the same kind of universe, even if they don't have access to something like Neos.
Right.
And so that's that. So yes, any game that we can do creative in is really where we want to stick. So Neos, Rec Room, Bone Lab has that too. VR Chat has that too.
Just because I think what we really saw was, I did a Boneworks live stream, and we ended up turning that into a video. And then one of our community members built the entire thing they saw on stream and they built it in Recroom.
Yeah, we just like piled up
Wow.
a bunch of crates
Crazy.
and made it a grocery store,
And
right?
so then they made it in Recroom, and I was like, this is amazing. And so shout out to Keiki because she's awesome. But
So we're watching the behaviors of
Yeah.
our audience already.
Exactly.
They're already doing this without us asking them to, and so we're just simply observing it, saying, "Oh, they're recreating this makeshift map that we made in Boneworks."
and it was even done
in Rec Room.
from Neos. It went to Recroom too.
Right.
Wow.
And they someone did the same thing from a map we did in Neos and recreated that in Rec Room. And so we're just like, okay, well, it makes perfect sense. If
Yeah.
this is what our audience wants, we're going to
Right.
capitalize on this.
do
And
it
having
for-
all these sets kind of in the background and in your arsenal are going to lead towards your wanting to make a cartoon and wanting to make
exactly
all these
right.
different things.
Comics,
Now people
yeah.
will see the cartoon and be like, hey, I've been in that room in Rec
Yeah.
Room.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. 'Cause
A huge part of that production is world building for us. We're
Yeah.
going to
Nice.
these places are going. A lot of them are going to exist in a greater context, and that's something that's definitely behind the scenes type thing where and it's all raw still, but like a city or something like that she inhabits, and these
Yeah.
are places that she's going, and these are she kind of like Barbie, she has 1,000,001 jobs, like that sort of thing. But yeah, and go ahead, VB. I'm sorry if I.
No, you're
you're
good.
fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I was going to actually mention Barbie because it's like as a kid, you play with Barbie, you create this world, and as a younger child, you're like, oh, I wish I could just become a Barbie, or I wish I could put myself in this actual world that I've created because it's amazing. And so now we're able to give them that opportunity with VR. Be like, you know what, you jump in and you create your own story with the environment that we're making.
It's amazing that it's awesome that we have all these platforms available us in VR for you to do
Yeah.
these things. And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask too was you guys are such great ambassadors for virtual reality because you could probably take exactly what you do and do it flat and do it not in VR or just do anything else. There's huge content creators out there that do a lot like what you do it flat and are like crazy, hugely successful. And you guys would be absolutely successful in that market. So number one, let me say thank you for doing what you do in VR to bring in a lot of these people. And have you ever, was that like a conscious thought for you where you're like, we love VR. We want to make sure we support it. This is where we're going to be. This is where we are going to lean into.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I mean, like you said, there's always Roblox or there's always, Minecraft, things like that.
Right.
But VR is just, there's nothing like it. There truly isn't. And I want to be able to, like I always tell them, if you have any chance to experience VR, like it's going to change your mind. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to change everything because it's you. Like you're really inserting yourself into a game. And you don't get that with anything else. Like truly get that with anything else. And so yeah, I've loved VR since the first time I put it on my head, and I was like, this is it, y'all.
And even from a practical
Love it.
standpoint,
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't play games. Like when she plays games
Right.
now, but she never played games growing up.
Yeah.
But from a practical standpoint, we're able to animate. And if we're not going to take the VBunnyGo brand into something like mocap where we're actually doing animations or drawings, this is the next thing that like really allows us to act and do all these things in game on in a way that where everyone can do it. So like for us, even with all these new VR headsets coming out and everything, like for us, one of the most important headsets in our case moving forward will be face tracking headsets and eye tracking headsets because
Nice.
when they see VB and she has her expression, it changes the entire dynamic of the video. And so these animations that you can do, body language, full body tracking, all these types of things that we can do inside of VR, even just looking from your perspective and just having your hands do the talking right in front of your face. These are things that you just don't get in any other platform. And so she excels in just being able to express through body language. And it's hard to get that in a regular flat game.
Things are going to get exciting for you guys, but then we're really within the next year or so when things really start to amp up with body tracking and Face tracking, eye
yeah,
tracking.
We're actually
Yeah.
getting the MetaQuest Pro to work on Neos right now. We've got our
Excellent.
whole body
Yeah.
tracking set up. We're ready to
And
do
we
it
all have
now.
body
We're
tracking.
just testing it. Yeah.
Nice.
We all got full
Yeah,
body
w-
tracking.
Any plans for PlayStation stuff? Like I know you kind of started out streaming, like Firewall and PlayStation VR 1. Any chances for integrating that in some way?
Yep, I was actually talking about it yesterday.
Nice.
We were looking at the stuff coming out and like Hello Neighbor. I'm like, that's my
Yeah,
game.
right?
Like, I'm
Hell,
gonna do
that's
it. Like,
that's gonna be
Yeah.
perfect for you guys. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, just looking at the video, like the photos. I'm like, I'm scared. Like, it's gonna be terrifying, but like, I'm so excited.
Yep.
Firewall 2 is coming out. I love Firewall, so I'm like, been
Yeah,
playing for
Firewall
that.
Ultra.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. We're gonna get a Firewall Ultra team together right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do this.
I am so
Hell
down.
do
yeah.
this. Heck
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Like we pre-ordered the PSVR 2.
Mhm.
We
Nice.
Finally found
found a PS5, so we're like, we're ready to go. Just give me the headset and let's go.
It's gonna be a whole new audience for you guys too. That's amazing. I
Yeah.
really think PlayStation VR 2 could be something special this coming year because a lot of people are going to come into VR for the first time and they're going to be finding hopefully us and you and all these other great
Yeah.
content creators out there.
No, exactly. I think it's going to be huge. Even I'm gonna say the name wrong, so I'm so sorry. But Cosmonious High.
Cosmonious
High, you got
High,
it.
yeah.
You got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to play that one too. And I kind of held back on playing that one for a little bit, but now that it's coming to like the PSVR 2, I'm like, there's
PSVR 2,
gonna be
yeah.
so many kids playing this. So I'm like,
There's
this
a lot
is
of
my time to go in and
opportunity.
That's a great game. There's a
Yeah.
ton of opportunity in that game to do your characters and
yeah. I've seen
crazy.
like Nazy
For
play
sure.
it and Soul Fox, and I'm just like, I want to play it.
Yep.
And so now it's like finally the moment where I feel like I can confidently go in and do it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
We definitely, and that one of the things that has been our focus is kind of making sure that when we produce something, there's a way that our audience can experience it as well. It's one of the big reasons why we really like Unity and Recroom teaming up or integrating, because anything we do on or we plan and we envision for Neos now or any other platform, we can now bring there so they can be immersed in it. And of course, PlayStation, it's a console actually designed for kids, unlike the Meta.
Yeah, right.
Headsets. But so now you have this and the exclusives that PlayStation offers. There's no way, dude. There's no way we could pass up on, getting involved as well and being part of the fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, we could probably go on for another 2 hours. Will you promise me one thing? Will you come back on at one time so we can do this again? Because I would. It's just not enough time, and there's probably about 50 other questions I would love to ask you. And
Yeah.
you guys are super fast.
We got to do this live one day too, because I'm sure the audience would love to interact
that would be
and
fantastic.
talk. So
That would be great.
we'll have to figure that out. I know Thursdays are busy for you guys, but we'll
Hey,
do something on another day.
You
We'll figure
guys
it
are
out.
Hambone, VB, and Martial Law. We'll move our show for
That's
you.
right.
You don't move for us. We move for you.
We'll work it out.
I'll say this. Hopefully, you'll have 100 more questions by the time we do another meeting.
Well,
Sounds
we
perfect.
had like 22 questions on our list here, and we've just deleted a bunch of them and moved them to another sheet because we don't have time to talk about
That's going to
everything.
be show number 2.
That's right.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Heck yeah. Thank you guys for being here today. I really appreciate it. Guys, everybody go check out VBunny. Go. It's super good. Trust me, you will have fun with this. I don't care how old you are or what demographic you are. There's a lot of fun to be had here. And you know what? If you have kids, this is something I get the chance to do with my daughter all the time, which is a lot of fun. So go do this. This is something you can do with your kids and have fun together.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very
You're the
much.
best.
Thank you.
See you soon.